Hi, I'm Kate. I'm from Madagascar. Well, this is my story and I'm going to share it with you. But before hearing it, please like and subscribe for more stories. Actually, I have no recollection of my previous existence, but I do recall being adopted by a family when I was 4 years old and have lived with them ever since. They both adored me, but unhappily. When I was 5 years old, my foster mother died of leukemia, a terrible disease. Dad married another lady 2 years later who also had a daughter called Fiona. She is a year older than I am. And I'm thrilled to finally have an older sister as well as a playmate. However, for some reason, we never got along. And my stepmother entirely despises me. On my 8th birthday, I woke up to see preparations going on in the house. I ran to my stepmother and saw that she was busy putting on Fiona's makeup. Oh man, I was so excited and thought my stepmother was trying to plan me a birthday party. I ran over to her with eyes sparkling with excitement. Then I asked her if she could make me up like Fiona. And of course, being a good girl, I thanked her for throwing the party for me and told her I love her so much. Then she said something that perplexed and frustrated me. She asked if I was daydreaming because all she was doing was for her daughter Fiona. Just then, Dad came in and hugged me. He softly reassured me. He told me I didn't need makeup since I was already an angel. He then wished me a happy birthday. Oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to have such a wonderful father. He grabbed a tiny box from his pocket. There was a lovely set of earrings on display. Wow, he has a good understanding of my preferences. Then he took me to cut the birthday cake and roast steak. When Fiona and I were heading to school in 8th grade, a boy leaped in front of us with a bouquet of tiny flowers. I was taken aback at this moment. He handed me a bunch of flowers and told me I was a beautiful girl. Fiona pulled the rose from his hand and stamped it beneath her feet before I could figure out what was going on. Fiona lied to her mother as soon as we arrived home, and Mom became an enraged goddess. She screamed at me and called me a spoiled child, then threatened to confine me and prevent me from attending school. I was scared and explained, but as soon as I spoke, she was more aggressive than before, and she said that I was implying that her daughter was lying. My stepmother grabbed my hand and attempted to lock me in my room, but my father quickly intervened and rescued me. He turned to face his stepmother and spoke a sharp voice. He wouldn't let my stepmother treat me like that. My stepmother was also a bit afraid, and I could see the blood gleam in my dad's eyes. Dad escorted me out of the room and told me something surprising. He stated that he would locate my biological mother and that I could visit her. But I adore my father and refuse to abandon him, and I have no idea who my real mother is or if she loves me or not. He went on a business trip overseas a few weeks later, and I was terrified of being alone with my stepmother and Fiona. My stepmother, on the other hand, greeted me with a glass of milk and a warm grin the next day. Well, I know something wasn't right. She even handed me Fiona's favorite beautiful kitten and urged me to wear it. However, there was a huge gathering of people in my house when I walked downstairs. Then she whispered in my ear that I should treat them well since they are the groom's family. What? What? What the hell was the stepmother talking about? Groom? Huh? Did that mean the stepmother was trying to get me out of this house? As expected, she admitted it. Of course, I wouldn't let that happen. I looked at my stepmother and smiled and threatened that I was only 14 years old and I knew this was illegal. If she forced me to do this, she would definitely end up in jail. After they left, my stepmother went crazy. My stepmother started talking about my foster care and my dad was spending everything for me out of his own pocket. She reapproached me as a useless and selfish child. Wow, who's the selfish one here, huh? Wasn't that her? Could her daughter be able to pay for her own tuition, or would she just need to breathe in the air to make it through the day? Ridiculous! She then blocked Google, preventing me from emailing my father. However, she was unaware that my father and I could still communicate via Instagram. I made the decision that I wouldn't stay here any longer. I texted my dad and told him everything that happened and left home that night with the address he had given me. The next day, I set foot in New York. And wow, New York is like another planet. Everything is very different. People, words, food, everything. And guess what? My real mom is an actress. She's a celebrity and I don't know about it. When her guard brought me in front of her, she was shocked. But seconds later, she hugged and kissed me as she loved me so much. She called me Katerina. Oh, is she really my biological mother? Otherwise, how could she forget my name is Kate? Another thing that makes me feel weird is that when I called her mom, she said that I should call her Sandy, just like her fans. Not mom. After that, I felt that what she said was just a fallacy. She said she abandoned me just for my sake. Oh my God, what sake? I still haven't said any sake as she said. Even so, things appear to be wonderful there. My mother provided me with an abundance of everything. She personally assigns 3 maids to me, and my meals were delivered daily from various 5-star hotels. She also enrolled me in the top school in New York, where I was pampered like a princess. From day one, all the kids tried to be friends with me. Once, I was invited by a girl to join the cheering team. Another time, I was asked by boys to take me on a tour of the school. Well, I knew that these things that they did were not for me. They were for my Rolls Royce and my mom's money. Yeah, but anyways, I still enjoy it. The school, on the other hand, struck me as odd. All girls had a boyfriend, and no one penalizes them for it. In the corridor, I even witnessed some females and boys kissing. It took some time for me to adapt this, but I eventually began to feel lonely on the inside. Mom was usually so preoccupied with her work that she rarely has time for me, so I resolved to make amends. Yes, I've begun to learn to cook. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. When I was flipping through the channels one day, I noticed my mother mentioning in a TV interview that she loves sour and spicy octopus salad. So I looked up the recipe on YouTube and made it for Mom. I couldn't wait to give her a taste. Mom, on the other hand, looked at the dish with horror and refused to eat the moving tentacle. I was taken aback and told her that I had seen her say on TV that that was her favorite cuisine. Mom burst out laughing. It was a refreshing smile. I have no idea what's going on. Then she said it was just a lie because sometimes artists have to. She went without eating any slide of the octopus salad I had prepared for her. I was in a terrible mood. The next day at school, I was surrounded by a bunch of guys who wanted to take me out on a date. I truly hope I could vanish at some point. At that moment, a boy named Richard came in front of me and said with a serious face that the principal was looking for some reason. I jumped up from my seat and went to the principal's office, but just as I was about to enter, he grabbed my hand and stopped me. He scratched his head and smiled and said that the truth is he just wanted to save me from the people who were bothering me. Wow, he looked so charming. And his dreamy eyes. We had lunch together after that, and he appeared so different from the other guys who were always flirting with me. We became fast friends, and he was simply the finest person I've ever met. Then one day, I took him home with me. Actually, I rarely got to see her at home, so I asked what she was doing here. Well, in a second, I found myself asking that. It was weird because this is her house, and she is free to return whenever she wants. Suddenly, Richard expressed surprise and asked if she's my mother. To be honest, I assumed that any student at that school knew Sandy was my mom. Then Richard burst out laughing, saying he was a huge fan of my mother. What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But, whatever. With that, I went to buy something to eat and left the two of them alone. When I returned, though, I saw my mother cuddling him. And then my mother told Richard that she wished she had a son like him. What? What the hell are you talking about? Am I not enough for her? She proceeded to talk and laugh with him for hours while I slept off on the couch. And then the oddest thing happened when I awoke. The maid informed me that they had both gone out to eat without me. What in the world was going on? I went to school the next day looking for Richard. However, I overheard some chuckling and strange conversation behind my back. One of the girls said that she couldn't believe my mother was dating Richard and that he would soon be my father. I was really depressed when I first heard those words. I asked them to stop spreading these nonsense rumors because Richard was going to be my boyfriend. Then there was a nonstop laughter from the surrounding students. They asked me if I had seen any newspaper on Facebook or Instagram today, and their lovey-dovey pics are viral everywhere. What occurred? I murmured in my mouth. I instantly took my phone and checked every social networking site for the breaking news. A hot young actress dating a schoolboy. At this moment, I was completely shocked, and I feel like the sky is darkening. I thought Mom would be so upset, so I rushed home, but to my shock, she behaved like nothing had happened. When I voiced my concern about my mother's scandal, she calmed down and claimed that such things happen to celebrities all the time and that it will help her career. What? Help her career? How? Then she reassured me and said that I didn't need to worry about her. But what astonished me most was her intention to adopt Richard next week because she knew he was an orphan boy. And then, that news would change everything in an amazing way. I was completely dumbfounded. My mother couldn't do that. All I wanted to do was date him. But now my mother has adopted him as my brother? I made every effort to prevent my mom from doing so. Mom just walked away with a smile on her face. What was she thinking anyway? The next morning, she came into my room and pretended as if nothing had happened the day before. Mom grabbed my hand and informed me and said that today is the last day of filming for the movie she is acting in and she wants to take me there. Oh my god. I think she's insane, but I've met a lot of celebrities I've only seen on TV, and that's incredible. Then a woman, probably a reporter, asked her if I was her daughter, and you wouldn't believe what she said. The first thing she said to the woman was as if she was mad, and that she should look at my mother's amazing body. Wow. Sandy refused to accept me as her daughter. Mom said that she would never spoil her youth and career just because of having a child. She didn't stop there, telling the woman that I was just her maid's daughter. When she felt poor for me, she decided to adopt me. God, what kind of mother is she? I didn't speak to her the entire way home. And to make matters worse, she didn't even bother to apologize to me, instead of making excuses. Mom claimed that was how life was, and that she wouldn't be able to stay in the field for long if people found out she was becoming old and had a child. I couldn't bear her selfish reasons. I sobbed and screamed at her to stop. Her remarks made me feel even worse. I inquired as to why she couldn't be completely honest with herself for a while. I despise her and her life. Then I dashed inside my room and slammed the door. The next day, I went to school and asked Richard if he knew anything about adoption. In my greatest nightmare, he just hugged me and referred to me as a sister. He expressed his delight at the prospect of having a renowned mother and having me as his sister. He was such a jerk, wasn't he? I slapped him across the face and returned to my class. Even so, other students swarmed around me, begging for tickets to Mom's most recent movie premiere. Everyone in this place was freaking insane. I couldn't take it any longer and decided to go home. I was packing my belongings when my mother shouted out to me as I was leaving the home. She reminded me to come home early because today she's taking me to Richard's house to sign the adoption papers. And of course, to make her name famous, she invited all the media to go there. She's a selfish person until the very end, right? Of course. It breaks my heart to think that I have never had a truly loving mother despite having two. After that, I found myself a small apartment to live in and texted my dad telling him how much I missed him. Thankfully, he replied and promised that he would come see me as soon as possible. Meanwhile, I registered for the MasterChef competition. I simply joined up because I was bored at the time, but it appears like some mystical force enabled me to advance to the final round. I prepared Chef Gordon Ramsay's famous beef Wellington meal and was fortunate enough to win. Well, with the great title and the bonus, I started my own restaurant in New York. And my dad was my very first customer. Very